Hello, and welcome to our channel. Today we're bringing you a truly inspiring story about love, resilience, and finding hope after loss. A New Tomorrow follows Sebastian and Valeria as they navigate a journey of healing and self-discovery that will move your heart. If you're someone who loves emotional and uplifting stories, you're in the right place. Before we get started, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell so you'll never miss another captivating story like this one. Also, leave a comment and let me know where you're watching from. I love seeing how far our stories travel. If you enjoy meaningful and transformative narratives, be sure to like and share this video to spread the inspiration. Let's dive into this unforgettable experience. Jack was sitting in the living room of his mansion in Charleston, a spacious and elegant area that now felt more like an echo of the past than a home. The walls were adorned with framed photos of his late wife, Mary, each telling a story of love, laughter, and happy moments that now seemed distant. The afternoon sun filtered through the curtains, softly illuminating the dust-covered furniture, and the air was heavy with a silence that felt suffocating. He glanced at the closest portrait, a radiant smile from Mary on a summer day, her hair blowing in the wind, and him beside her, holding the same look of admiration he had always felt. But instead of comfort, that image brought him a deep sense of loneliness. A soft knock at the door pulled Jack back to reality. It was Susan, his longtime friend and confidant. Upon entering, she immediately sensed the heavy atmosphere hanging over the room. "Jack," she began in a gentle voice, "I'm really worried about you. You can't keep living like this." He sighed and looked away from the photo. "I know, Susan. But what can I do? It's as if everything has lost its meaning since Mary passed." Susan moved closer, sitting at the edge of the sofa, her hands clasped nervously. "You need to reconnect with the world. How about going to a charity ball in Boston? It's a great opportunity to socialize and maybe make some new friends." Jack shook his head, laughing without joy. "A ball? Are you kidding? How can I have fun in a place like that when all I feel is this emptiness without her?" "I understand," Susan replied, "but that doesn't mean you should shut yourself away. Life goes on, Jack. You need to find a way to move forward." He hesitated for a moment, considering her words. "Maybe, but I don't know if I'm ready for that." "You may never be completely ready, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't try. What if I suggested something a little different?" Jack raised his eyebrows, intrigued. "What do you mean?" "What if you considered hiring a rental wife for some of these occasions? Someone who could accompany you, make you feel less alone?" He laughed, but the laughter sounded bitter. "A rental wife? Susan, that's ridiculous. I can't just replace Mary like that." "It's not about replacing," she insisted, leaning forward, "but about finding some company, someone who could help you step out of this dark place. Think about it, Jack. You don't have to decide now, but don't close the door on new possibilities." He watched her, her gaze filled with concern and empathy. "I'll think about it," he replied, though he knew the idea unsettled him. As Susan stood to leave, Jack found himself even more lost in thought. He wondered if life could really go on without Mary, if there was room in his heart for someone new. And even if he wanted to believe he could, the notion of a rental wife left him uneasy, as if he were dishonoring her memory. As the afternoon turned into evening, Jack found himself looking out the window, the city lights twinkling in the distance, and for the first time in a long while, a small part of him wished tomorrow would bring something different. But the weight of the past still loomed heavy, and loneliness remained a constant companion. Jack was sitting at a table in a cozy cafe in downtown Charleston, watching the bustling city through the window. The aroma of fresh coffee and homemade pastries filled the air, but he couldn't immerse himself in the warm atmosphere. His gaze was lost in his own thoughts, in memories that felt increasingly distant. He held a cup of coffee but lacked the desire to drink it. The photos of his late wife, Mary, were still fresh in his mind, and loneliness enveloped him like a heavy cloak. Just then, Emily walked into the cafe, a bit hesitant but with a sparkle in her eyes that seemed to contradict her shyness. She scanned the room before heading to the counter to place her order. While waiting, her eyes met Jack's, and she smiled timidly. He returned the smile but quickly looked away, feeling out of place in her presence. "Hi, are you waiting for someone?" Emily asked, approaching Jack's table. There was something warm in her voice that made Jack feel slightly less alone. "No, I'm just thinking," Jack replied, trying to hide the sadness in his voice. Thinking can be good sometimes, Emily said, sitting down at the table opposite him. But it can also be lonely. There was a sincerity in her gaze that made Jack hesitate. He wasn't used to opening up to strangers, but something about her encouraged him. It's true. I felt that way for a while, Jack admitted, feeling vulnerable. I lost my wife a few years ago. And since then, well, it's complicated. He looked at the cup in his hands as if waiting for it to provide an answer. Emily nodded in understanding. I'm sorry. I can't imagine how hard that must be. She hesitated for a moment, as if she wanted to share something deeper. I'm also going through a tough time. My mom is sick, and I have to take care of her in Chicago. Jack felt a wave of empathy wash over him at her words. That must be difficult for you, he said, feeling closer to her. Taking care of someone we love is never easy. It's true, Emily agreed, her expression softening. But it's what we do for love, right? We find strength where we least expect it. Jack observed her, admiring the courage in her words. You're an amazing person, Jack said, feeling inspired by her resilience. Actually, I'm thinking about making some changes in my life, but I don't know where to start. He hesitated, but the confidence he felt talking to her led him to continue. Susan, my friend, suggested that I hire a wife for rent. Emily furrowed her brow, surprised. A wife for rent? She chuckled lightly, but not mockingly. Is that something you've really considered? It's a strange idea, I know, Jack said, shrugging. But sometimes, the loneliness feels so heavy that I find myself thinking about anything that could help me feel something again. I understand, Emily replied, her gaze now more serious. Sometimes, we need a push to get out of the hole we're in. And if that means having someone by our side, why not? Jack watched her, impressed by her perspective. There was a lightness to her approach that was comforting. Do you really think that would help? Maybe, she said, leaning a little forward. But it's important that this person isn't just a placeholder. They should bring something real to your life. Jack felt a warmth growing inside him. And what if that person doesn't exist? What if I never find someone who can help me out of this loneliness? Emily smiled softly. Maybe you need to be the person who brings that change to yourself. Sometimes the first step is believing that it's possible. Jack fell silent, absorbing her words. It was as if, somehow, Emily was opening a window he thought was permanently closed. He didn't know what the future held, but at least for that moment, the idea of change didn't seem so distant. Emily was becoming increasingly comfortable in Jack's mansion. The space, which once felt heavy with sadness, was now starting to show subtle signs of life. On a sunny day, while the flowers in the window bloomed in vibrant colors, Emily was in the main hall, decorating for a dinner that Susan had suggested. She was arranging the fresh flowers she had bought at the local market when Susan walked in, carrying a box of candles. Hi, darling. You're doing a wonderful job here, Susan said, smiling at the transformed environment. These flowers bring such good energy. Thank you, Susan. I just wanted Jack to feel that this place can be more than a memory of the past. Emily replied, her eyes shining. I think he needs something light, something that makes him smile again. Susan nodded, placing the candles on the table. You're doing great. He really needs you. It's not easy dealing with loss, but you seem to be the right person to help him find a new path. Emily paused for a moment, thoughtful. I just hope he's ready for it. Sometimes, I feel like I'm intruding on a sacred space. You know, Mary's memory is everywhere. It's natural to feel that way, Susan said empathetically. But remember, Jack is trying to move on. He doesn't want to disrespect Mary's memory, but rather honor her by finding happiness again. You can be part of that. With a nervous smile, Emily began arranging the candles on the table. I just want him to know that I care. I'm here for him, but at the same time, I don't want to be seen as a replacement. Susan approached, placing her hand on Emily's shoulder. You're not a replacement. You are you, and Jack needs you just the way you are. Just keep being authentic and attentive to what he needs. As they worked together, sharing laughter and stories, the atmosphere in the mansion seemed to change even more. Emily had a natural ability to brighten the space. She brought in soft music to play in the background, and soon the hall was enveloped in a lighter energy. "You have a gift, you know," Susan commented as she watched Emily arrange the flowers. "Jack needs someone to make him feel alive again, and you're doing that so genuinely." "Thank you, Susan. I just want him to feel that he can be happy again," Emily replied, a bit emotional. "He's a good man, and he deserves to smile." "And you do too," Susan said, winking at her. "Don't forget to take care of yourself in the process. Love is a two-way street." As the days passed, Emily continued to make small changes in the mansion. She started bringing fresh flowers whenever she could, and music became a constant element in the afternoons. In a particularly joyful moment, Emily decided to make a little surprise for Jack. "Jack, you need to see this," she called out as he entered the room. The table was set with colorful flowers, lit candles, and a lovingly prepared dinner. "Wow, Emily, this is amazing," Jack exclaimed, his eyes shining as he took in the transformation of the space. "You really did all this?" "I just thought it would be nice for us to have a meal together, something special. I hope you like it," Emily said, nervous but excited. "I loved it. It's like the house has come to life," Jack replied, sitting at the table. "You have a talent for this." As they ate, they talked about their lives, their memories, and what they hoped for the future. Emily shared stories about her mother and the challenges she faced, while Jack reminisced about some of his best memories with Mary, always with a nostalgic smile on his face. "Mary loved flowers like this," Jack said, looking at the centerpiece. "She always said they were a symbol of renewal, of new beginnings. That's what I want you to feel, Jack. That it's possible to start over, even if it's hard," Emily replied, her voice soft and encouraging. Jack looked at her with gratitude, realizing how much this young woman was trying to help him heal. The connection between them was growing stronger, and without even noticing, Jack began to open up to this new friendship blossoming amid the pain of the past. Ryan returned home after an intense semester at college. The anticipation of seeing his father and the home he had always known filled him with anxiety, but that feeling quickly turned into perplexity as he stepped into the mansion. What should have been a familiar place felt different, almost unrecognizable. As he crossed the threshold, he stopped abruptly. On the living room sofa, a strange woman was laughing and chatting with his father, Jack. "Who is she?" Ryan thought, a knot of suspicion forming in his stomach. He approached cautiously, trying to understand the new dynamic unfolding before him. "Hi, Dad," he said, attempting to hide his surprise. Jack turned, a genuine smile lighting up his face. "Ryan, it's so good to have you back," Jack exclaimed, rising to hug his son. The embrace was warm, but Ryan couldn't divert his gaze from Emily, who watched the scene with a shy smile. "Hi, I'm Emily," she said, extending her hand. Ryan hesitated for a moment before shaking her hand. There was something about her that unsettled him, a presence that felt out of place in his home. "Emily moved in here. She's helping me deal with some things," Jack explained, as if that were sufficient justification. Ryan frowned. "Helping you deal with what? With Mom?" The question slipped out more harshly than he intended, but the pain of loss was still too fresh. Jack sighed, a look of concern crossing his face. "It's not like that, son. I'm trying to move on. Life goes on." "Move on?" Ryan repeated, indignant. "So that's it? You just replace Mom with a stranger?" He felt anger boiling inside him. "You can't do that, Dad. She deserves more than to be just a memory in a photo on the wall." Emily, sensing the tension, looked at Jack and then at Ryan. "I'm not here to replace anyone," she said, her voice soft and calm. I just want to help. Your dad is an amazing person and he was so lonely. And you think that's okay?" Ryan shot back, crossing his arms in a defensive gesture. "You don't know anything about our life, about our family," Jack intervened, his voice firm. "Ryan, that's not fair. You don't know Emily. She's been a friend to me. And I really need this. You can't just judge me for trying to be happy again." "Happy?" Ryan laughed sarcastically. "How can you be happy? Mom is gone, and here you are with a stranger in your house." "She's not a stranger," Jack said, hurt. "She's someone who's helping me find a new path. You need to understand that this doesn't mean I don't love your mother or that I'm forgetting her." Ryan fell silent, reflecting on his father's words. He realized that the pain he felt was not just from losing his mother, but also from the fear of losing his father to someone else. The void left by Mary's death was profound, and the thought of seeing Jack move on left him anguished. "I just want you to be happy, Dad," he finally said, his voice softer. "But this is all too new for me. I don't know how to deal with it." Jack stepped closer to his son, placing a hand on his shoulder. "I understand. It's hard for me, too. But Emily isn't here to replace your mother. She's here because she makes me feel alive again. And I want you to know that." Ryan looked at Emily, who was watching the scene with an understanding expression. He felt a wave of conflict, but also a small desire to understand. "I just need time," he murmured, finally allowing the tension to begin to dissipate. "It's okay," Emily replied, smiling gently. "I don't expect you to trust me right away, but I'm here to help if you let me." Ryan took a deep breath, trying to process everything that had just happened. He realized that this new dynamic would be challenging, but perhaps, with time, he could see Emily in a new light. He just needed space, time, and maybe a little patience. The soft morning light filtered through the mansion's windows, illuminating the corners of a space that was slowly transforming under Emily's presence. She was in the kitchen, preparing a simple but cozy breakfast. The aroma of fresh coffee mingled with the sweet smell of French bread, creating an atmosphere of warmth. However, the joy emanating from the place was interrupted by an urgent call. Emily's cell phone vibrated insistently on the table. As she picked up the device, her heart tightened at the sight of the Chicago hospital's name on the screen. With a nervous touch of the button, she answered, her voice trembling. "Hello? Emily, it's Dr. Martins. We need to talk about your mother's condition." The doctor's voice was direct but filled with compassion. "Unfortunately, there has been a significant decline. We need to discuss treatment options." Emily felt the ground fall away beneath her feet. The thought of losing her mother, the only family she had left, paralyzed her. What does that mean? Is she in critical condition? Her voice faltered, and tears began to well up. "We can't be sure what will happen, but I would like you to come to the hospital as soon as possible. We need to consider what's best for her." I understand. I'm on my way." After hanging up, Emily stood frozen, the reality settling in her mind. The weight of guilt hit her like a wave, and doubts began to erode her determination to stay by Jack's side. With a deep sigh, she looked for Susan, who was in the living room organizing some books. Seeing the lost look on Emily's face, Susan immediately sensed that something was wrong. "Emily, are you okay? What happened?" "It was the hospital. My mom is getting worse. We need to go to Chicago," Emily said, her voice choked. "I can't stay here while she needs me." Susan approached, holding Emily's shoulders firmly. "I'm so sorry, dear. This must be really hard for you. But what about Jack? He really cares about you." Emily took a deep breath, trying to organize her thoughts. "But what if I leave him? What if that's insensitive? He's starting to open his heart again, and I don't know if I can keep going like this right now." "You need to be honest with him. It's not fair to hide your feelings. Jack understands the importance of your family. He has also gone through pain and loss," Susan said, her voice soft but firm. "I don't want to hurt him, Susan. He's finally finding joy again," Emily replied, her eyes shining with tears. "I don't want to be the reason he feels pain again. But you also need to take care of your own heart." "What would your mom want you to do?" Susan asked, leaning in to look into Emily's eyes. "She would want you to be happy, and Jack wants you to be happy." Susan's words echoed in Emily's mind as she pondered the difficult decision. "I know you're right, but I can't help feeling like I'm betraying my mom's memory if I stay here." "Staying doesn't mean betraying. You can be a source of light in Jack's life while also being there for your mom. You can find a balance. Just do what your heart tells you," Susan encouraged him with a warm smile. Emily felt a small wave of comfort. What if I decide to stay a little longer? But the guilt. Look, you can still go to Chicago and then come back. You're not abandoning your mom. You're just trying to find a space where you can be happy and help those around you, Susan said, squeezing Emily's hand. And remember, you're strong. You can do this. With a deep sigh, Emily made her decision. Okay, I'll stay a bit longer. But I need to call the hospital and make sure I can be there for my mom when she needs me the most. That's all you can do. And Jack will be there to support you too, Susan replied, offering an encouraging smile. Emily smiled back, a glimmer of determination starting to form in her eyes. Thank you, Susan. I don't know what I would do without you. The night of the charity gala in Boston was approaching, and the anticipation hung in the air like a gentle mist. Jack, in his mansion, looked into the mirror, adjusting his tie. The soft light from the lamp illuminated his face, revealing the marks of sadness that still insisted on lingering. He turned to Emily, who was in a corner of the room, examining some outfit options. Don't you think this dress is too simple for an event like this? Jack asked, watching the young woman. Emily smiled, holding up a deep blue dress that accentuated her eyes. I think simplicity has its charm. I don't want to seem like I'm trying to compete with you, Jack. This event is about charity, not about us. You're right, but still you deserve to shine, Jack replied, admiring the way she carried herself. There was something about her presence that made everything lighter, more joyful. After a while, Emily decided on the dress she had chosen. Done. What do you think? She twirled around, making the skirt of the dress flutter. Stunning, Jack said sincerely, a smile forming on his lips. You're going to leave everyone speechless. I hope and speechless was a good word for charity, Emily replied, winking at him. Now, you need to hurry. The gala starts in an hour, and I don't want us to be late. The drive to Boston was filled with animated conversations and laughter. Jack felt rejuvenated by Emily's company. Her energy was contagious, and as they approached the venue, he realized his anxiety was dissipating. Upon arriving at the gala, they were greeted by a red carpet leading to the entrance of the elegant hotel. Jack and Emily exchanged excited glances before entering together, hand in hand, as if they were a long-established couple. As they walked in, the vibrant atmosphere of the event enveloped them. Twinkling lights illuminated the ballroom, and the sound of laughter and soft music filled the space. Jack felt his heart race, not just from the beauty of the place, but from Emily's presence by his side. He knew he was entering a new chapter of his life. Shall we mingle? Emily suggested, her curious gaze scanning the room full of well-dressed people. Yes, of course, Jack replied, trying to appear more confident than he truly felt. Just don't be surprised if I get a little nervous. You have no reason to be. Just be yourself, Emily encouraged, holding his hand firmly. Let's have fun. As the night progressed, Jack and Emily became the center of attention. The chemistry between them was palpable, and the conversations flowed naturally. Jack's eyes lit up every time Emily spoke, and she asked questions that made him feel at ease. He felt rejuvenated. During a break, while they were in a quieter corner, an old friend of Jack's, Charles, approached. Jack! Long time no see. And who is this lovely young lady by your side? He asked, looking at Emily with a curious expression. This is Emily, Jack introduced, a slight blush rising to his face. She's helping me rediscover joy in life. Nice to meet you, Charles, Emily said, extending her hand. Jack has been very kind to me. Jack, you're not forgetting about your late wife, are you? Charles asked, his voice laced with a serious and somewhat uncomfortable tone. The atmosphere around them seemed to change, and Jack felt a knot form in his throat. He looked at Emily, who was by his side, ready to support him. No, I'm not forgetting, Jack replied, his voice firm. Mary will always be in my heart, but that doesn't mean I can't find happiness again. Emily has brought light to my dark days. Emily smiled at Jack, their hands intertwined. I believe everyone deserves a second chance in life, she said, her sincerity easing the tension in the air. Charles nodded slowly, seeming to understand. Be happy, Jack. That's what Mary would want. After the conversation, Jack and Emily moved to a quieter corner where they could catch their breath. Thank you for supporting me, Jack said, looking into Emily's eyes. It means a lot to me. We're in this together, Jack. I'm here for you, Emily replied, a spark of determination in her gaze. And so, as soft music floated in the background, Jack felt that for the first time in a long while, he was ready to move forward in his life, alongside someone who made him feel alive again. The night after the charity gala in Boston still echoed in Jack's mind. He had felt alive again, surrounded by people, conversations, and laughter. But the memory of Mary lingered like a gentle shadow, a presence he couldn't ignore. As he left the gala, his heart was filled with conflicting emotions. Now, a strong impulse guided him toward the cemetery in Charleston, where Mary rested. The sky was clear, and stars shone like tiny beacons in the vast night. Jack drove his car to the cemetery entrance, feeling the familiarity of the path. As he parked, he grabbed the bouquet of white lilies he had chosen especially for the visit. Lilies were Mary's favorite flowers, and he always believed they represented the purity and beauty she brought into his life. As he walked along the stone paths, Jack felt the weight of longing in his chest. He stopped before the gravestone, which was illuminated by the soft light of the moon. Mary's name was elegantly engraved, and Jack knelt, placing the lilies at the base of the stone. "Hi, my love," he began, his voice choked with emotion. "I'm sorry for not coming sooner. Life, well, you know how it is. But today, I felt different. I went to a gala, and believe it or not, I thought of you the whole time." He took a deep breath, trying to organize his thoughts. "I met a woman named Emily. She makes me feel things I haven't felt since you left. It's strange, I know, I still love you and I always will. But Emily is kind and caring. She's brought a little light back into my dark life." The wind blew softly, as if Mary were listening and responding with tenderness. Jack felt a wave of emotion as he remembered the happy moments they shared. "I feel guilty, Mary. Guilty for wanting to be happy again. But at the same time, I feel like you would want me to move on, to find joy again. It's what you always wanted for me, right?" He looked at the gravestone, as if waiting for an answer. "At the gala, I managed to smile. I danced, I talked, and for a moment I felt alive. Emily supported me, encouraged me. She helps me remember that life goes on, that there are still hopes and dreams to be fulfilled." Jack ran his hand over the gravestone, touching the lovingly engraved letters. "I want you to know that while I'm learning to love again, you'll always be a part of me. I can't just forget everything we shared. You were my light, and you always will be." He paused, feeling tears streaming down his face. "Today, I managed to close a chapter of my life. I feel ready to open another, but that doesn't mean you won't be with me. I hope you can forgive me and support me as I move forward." The silence of the cemetery was profound, and Jack felt as if time had stopped. He stood up, feeling a new lightness in his heart. "I promise I'll take care of myself and the memory you left behind. I want to live with joy, and I hope you'll be by my side in spirit." As he walked away from the gravestone, Jack looked back one last time, feeling he had shared his heart with Mary. "Thank you for everything, my love. Goodbye for now." He walked toward his car, the cool night breeze enveloping him like a warm embrace. The weight that had once oppressed him felt a little lighter, and as he drove back home, Jack knew he was ready for a new beginning. Jack was in Chicago, a city that now carried a weight in his heart. He wasn't there just to visit. He was there to seek something he had found in his life again: hope. The health of Emily's mother weighed heavily on his mind, but the need to confess his feelings to her propelled him forward. When he arrived at the hospital, the environment was both familiar and distressing, with the smell of antiseptic mingling with a faint floral aroma adorning the hallways. He took a deep breath, trying to calm himself as he walked toward the room where Emily was. Upon entering, the scene he found was delicate and moving. Emily was sitting beside her mother's bed, holding her hand tenderly, her eyes fixed on the book she was reading aloud. The soft light of the late afternoon filtered through the window, creating an almost magical yet sorrowful atmosphere. Jack hesitated for a moment, watching Emily's dedication, her strength and vulnerability. "Hi, Emily," he said, his voice a bit shaky, breaking the silence that hung in the air. She turned quickly, her eyes lighting up at the sight of him, though a shadow of worry still lingered on her face. "Jack, what are you doing here?" she asked, her voice sweet but laden with emotion. "I was thinking about you, and your mom," Jack replied, moving closer to the bed. He looked at the woman who had given birth to Emily, noticing how the fragility of life was present, but also how it served as a reminder of the strength Emily possessed. "How is she?" "She is stable, but the doctor said things could change at any moment." Emily replied, her voice choked with emotion. "I just want her to know how much I love her." Jack sat down in a nearby chair, taking a moment to absorb the scene. "You're amazing, you know that." "She's lucky to have you by her side," he said, looking into Emily's eyes, trying to convey the sincerity of his words. Emily smiled sadly but gratefully. "Thank you, Jack. It's hard, but I'm doing what I can." The atmosphere was heavy with unspoken emotions, and Jack felt it was the right moment. He took a deep breath, preparing to open his heart. "Emily, I needed to come here today because I can't keep this to myself anymore." She furrowed her brow, curious yet still focused on her mother's condition. "What do you mean?" "Since you came into my life, everything has changed. You brought light back into my home, into my heart. I didn't know I could feel this way again. I've fallen in love with you," Jack confessed, his words flowing with the sincerity of someone who had finally freed himself from a burden. A silence hung between them, and Jack felt his heart race as he awaited Emily's reaction. She looked at him, her eyes shining with tears, but there was also an expression of happiness. "Jack, I don't know what to say," she began, her voice trembling. I also have feelings for you. You've made me feel alive again, even in such difficult times." At that moment, Emily's mother, still unconscious, seemed to represent the bond that united them, even though she was unaware of the conversation. Jack felt a weight on his conscience, but the joy of having revealed his feelings was overwhelming. "I just want you to be happy, Emily. You deserve that. And if that means being together, then I want to fight for that," Jack said, his gaze fixed on Emily, hoping she felt the sincerity of his words. At that moment, Emily's mother, with visible effort, opened her eyes and, still groggy, caught part of the conversation. "What's going on here?" she asked, her voice weak but filled with curiosity. Emily looked at her mother, a mix of surprise and joy on her face. "Mom, Jack was just telling me how much he cares about me." Her mother, even in her weakened state, smiled slightly and, with a feeble gesture, encouraged them. "If he makes you happy, my dear, you should follow your heart." Her mother's words brought relief to both Jack and Emily. A silent blessing from a mother was all they needed to take a step forward amid life's uncertainties. Jack felt that despite the circumstances, there was a new path to tread, a path that could lead to a future full of love and hope. The sun began to set behind the majestic trees of the mansion in Charleston, painting the sky a soft orange. The sound of a gentle breeze and the contained laughter of guests created a magical atmosphere for Jack and Emily's wedding. The garden was adorned with white and lilac flowers, reflecting the elegance of the ceremony about to take place. Jack, dressed in a dark suit and classic tie, looked at the makeshift altar, nervous yet radiant. He felt a mix of emotion and gratitude for being there, about to take such a significant step in his life. Emily, on the other hand, looked stunning in a delicate lace dress that flowed softly to the ground. Her hair was styled in a messy bun, with a few loose strands framing her radiant face. As she began to walk toward the altar, Jack's eyes sparkled. He had never seen anyone so beautiful and full of life. The murmurs of the guests quieted, and all eyes were fixed on her. "You look incredible," Jack whispered when Emily joined him at the altar, a wide smile lighting up his face. "You too, Jack. I'm so happy we're here together," Emily replied, her heart racing as she held his hand. The officiant, a longtime friend of Jack's, began the ceremony, his warm voice echoing among the trees. "We are here today to celebrate the love between Jack and Emily, a love that has blossomed amid challenges and transformations. They have found in each other not only companionship, but also hope and renewal." As the officiant spoke, Jack looked at Emily, absorbing every word and every moment. He felt that alongside her, he could finally leave the shadows of his past behind. During the vows, Jack took a deep breath, his voice steady and clear. "Emily, since you entered my life, I've discovered a new meaning of happiness. You've brought light to my dark world and taught me how to love again. I promise to respect and support you, just as you have for me, and together we will face whatever life throws our way." Tears began to shine in Emily's eyes as she listened to Jack's words. When it was her turn to speak, her voice was thick with emotion. "Jack, you are the man I never knew I needed. You've shown me that it's possible to start over and that love is a powerful force. I promise to be your partner, your friend, and your lover in all moments, both good and bad. The guests were visibly moved, some discreetly wiping away tears. When the officiant asked them to exchange rings, Jack and Emily shared knowing glances, aware that they were about to seal a commitment that meant much more than just a day. With these rings, I give you my heart and my unconditional love, Jack said as he slipped the ring onto Emily's finger. I accept, Jack. May we always be there for each other, Emily replied, mirroring his sentiment. After the vows, the officiant smiled and declared, by the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss. The kiss was gentle yet filled with emotion, a silent promise that they were ready to face the future together. Applause erupted throughout the garden, with guests rising to their feet, cheering and celebrating. The reception began shortly after, and the atmosphere was vibrant. The tables were adorned with floral arrangements and flickering candles, guests toasted with champagne flutes, and laughter mingled with the soft music playing in the background. To the happiness of Jack and Emily, Ryan toasted, now wearing a genuine smile. He approached the couple and added, you both deserve all the joy in the world. Jack and Emily exchanged glances, feeling the positive energy surrounding them. In that moment, everything seemed perfect. As the night wore on, they danced under the twinkling lights, surrounded by friends and family, celebrating not only the union of two souls, but also a renewal of life, love, and hope. Jack and Emily returned to the mansion in Charleston, which now pulsed with new life. The walls, once so silent and burdened with sad memories, were adorned with photos from the recent wedding ceremony. The fresh flowers Emily had carefully chosen for the reception still filled vases around the house, exuding a delicate fragrance that filled the rooms. It was a transformed home, now brimming with warmth and laughter. Sitting on the porch, Jack and Emily watched Ryan playing in the yard with younger cousins. The sun was setting, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, creating a perfect backdrop for that moment. Jack turned to Emily, his gaze soft and filled with love. Do you remember how this porch used to be a place of solitude for me? He began, his voice slightly choked. Emily smiled, her heart warmed by the memory. Yes, I remember. And now it's a place of joy. I never thought I would see you so happy like this, Jack. She leaned in closer to him, holding his hand. You deserve this, and so much more. I couldn't have done it without you, Jack replied, looking into her eyes. You brought back the light I thought I had lost forever. He paused, absorbing the feeling of being there in that moment. And what moves me the most is seeing Ryan having fun. He seems so different now, so lighthearted. Emily nodded, watching Jack's son. He really does look happy. I feel like he's finally starting to accept all of this. A gentle breeze passed, and she tucked her hair behind her ear, revealing a glimmer of hope in her gaze. I think he realizes that you're allowing yourself to be happy again. I hope so, Jack said, glancing at his son. I've always worried that he might feel betrayed by my happiness, but he's adapting. And you play a crucial role in that. I just did what my heart told me to do, Emily replied, a shy smile on her lips. But to be honest, I'm also adapting. Being here with you and Ryan feels like a dream I never thought I would have. Then let's make sure that dream continues, Jack said, his voice firm and full of determination. Let's plan our trips, our charity projects. There's so much we can do together. That sounds wonderful, Emily exclaimed, her eyes shining. I have some ideas about how